the City of Conway Planning Commission. And so with that, we will start with a roll call. And so Laura, if you will call a roll for us.
Yes. Rebecca Fincher.
At present.
Where King is here. Drew Spurgers. Alexander Bainey.
Present.
If everyone has had a chance to review the minutes from March 13th, I will take a motion to approve those minutes.
Move to approve.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Alexander, second by Ethan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, with that, the minutes from the March meeting stand approved. So we will, just as a matter of a couple of housekeeping items, the Conway Planning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council on public hearing items, which is item 3 on our agenda tonight. Items reviewed on this agenda will be considered by the City Council as early as April 25th, 2023. Items not approved by the Planning Commission may be appealed to the City Council within 30 days of the date of Planning Commission denial. And so with that, we will go ahead and move into our first item this evening, the subdivision review. And so Ryan, are you our person for this? Perfect.
Good evening. This is the request for preliminary plat approval for Bird's Nest Phase 2. Location is at the northeast corner of the intersection of Thomas G. Wilson Drive and Dave Ward Drive. The site is 17.66 acres and is currently zoned C3. The applicant is requesting preliminary approval of a 4-lot subdivision. At this location, the reason it comes before you is because drainage is involved and there is a new street that's also going to be constructed with it. We've looked over this. Given the zoning of the site, it's anticipated the subdivision will be used for commercial, retail, restaurant, office, and or multifamily. Construction of Veterans Drive shall occur prior to filing of the final plat. Construction of the private streets may be deferred and tied to the development of future lots, which, as you can see by looking at the plat, Veterans Drive is the north-south street, and then there'll be private streets that run along the back for connectivity. We reviewed this, and we would recommend approval with the following conditions. A plain easement along Dave Ward Drive will be provided to restrict direct access to Dave Ward Drive for lots 7 through 9. Lots 7 through 9 shall only take access from the proposed private streets. Private streets for lots 7 through 9 shall be constructed concurrently with the development of each lot. No certificate of occupancy may be obtained for any lot unless all portions of the proposed private street fronting the lot have been constructed. The proposed Veterans Drive shall be constructed to provide required street frontage for Lot 10. Lot 10 is considered unbuildable until the street is complete. Wheelchair ramp shall be provided by the developer in accordance with the City of Conway standard details. The street and drainage plans, drainage report shall be modified to meet the requirements necessary for approval by the city engineer. A draft bill of assurance and restrictions proposed for the subdivision, generally describing proposed covenants, restrictions, and conditions applicable to the property included in the submitted plat. Fire hydrants must be placed at the furthest point of a lot, and a commercial subdivision is not more than 400 feet from the hydrant location. All other applicable provisions of the City of Conway subdivision ordinance shall be satisfied and accounted for prior to preliminary plat approval. Receipt of an approved copy of the preliminary plat along with the approved street and drainage plan shall constitute authorization of the Planning Commission for the developer to proceed with the preparation of the final plat. Any of the above conditions not met, as determined by the concurrence of the planning director and city engineer, shall require re-review and approval by the Planning Commission. And sidewalks along Dave Ward Drive and Veterans Drive shall be constructed at the time of building construction. Any questions?
Any questions from the commission? Okay. Any discussion within the commission? All right, this does require a simple majority, so with that, I will take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Motion by Ethan, second by Alexander. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. With that, the item stands approved. Now, we have an appeal review this evening. And so is this, Beth, is this going to be you that's presenting this or?
I can present.
Oh, it's you. Okay, I'm sorry. So Chris, you're gonna do the appeal review for the sign variance.
I am. As soon as I can find it. All right, The item in front of you is an appeal for a denial of a sign variance from the director. Actions that the commission can take on a decision, an appeal of a decision, is to overturn that decision. The site location is at 1505 East Oak Street. It's 1.28 acres. It's in the Highway Service Open Display Commercial C3 zoning district. There's not currently an existing structure. It's going to be a future auto zone. The zoning code allows for sign variance requests related to any sign requirements established by the ordinance, excluding sign area and electronic messaging. The variance request shall demonstrate that special conditions or circumstances exist that are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings, such that a literal interpretation of the ordinance would result in undue hardship. On page 10 of your packet, you can see the request. The applicant is requesting an appeal of the Director of Planning's denial of a requested sign variance to allow a sign height of 20 feet. The director reviewed the request. The applicant had stated in their hardship that an existing off-premise directional sign at the corner of Oak Street and Simon Street would block the visibility of AutoZone's sign from traffic heading east along East Oak Street. The director visited the site and the planned location of the sign, and it does not appear that the sign at the corner of East Oak Street or Simon would interfere with the visibility of the sign heading east on Oak Street. The exhibit provided below shows the appropriate location of the proposed sign, the approximate location of the proposed sign, and the sign at the corner of Oak and Simon. In the future, it is expected that the non-conforming sign that's at the corner of Oak and Simon would be removed. That would be with future redevelopment or a new development in that for that area. The director also reviewed considerations as to the applicant's discussion regarding other businesses within an area of the proposed auto zone location having existing taller freestanding signs in the area. City Council, at the unanimous request of the Planning Commission, recently adopted new considerations for the Oak Street corridor with the Oak Street Ahead corridor plan. This frontage is within the Oak Street District 3 conceptual area. Oak Street Ahead promotes considerations for sign regulations applying to all new development and redevelopment along this corridor. While staff is aware of non-conforming issues related to signage within this area, staff interprets the recently adopted considerations as a desire for the council and commission to reduce non-conforming issues along this corridor and consider signs to be an issue along Oak Street, which needs to be receive more in-depth reviews and considerations. Since this is an appeal, staff, let me check. Oh, my apologies. Additionally, while Oak Street Ahead supports an auto parts district use at the corner of Simon and Oak Street, the Simon Street intersection is envisioned as a future gateway into that district, implying beautification along this area in the future with redevelopment. The Oak Street Ahead project also supported the consideration that this within the city quality section that the Oak Street area past east of I-40 is encouraged to become a green corridor, walkable with less oversized parking and more greenery. Exceeding sign requirements may be counterproductive to this setting and maintains non-conforming standards along the corridor during redevelopment and new development. As an additional note, the Planning Commission bylaws state that under precedents that each item docketed shall be decided upon its own merit and circumstances attendant there. 2, no action shall be considered a precedent for future action.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions from the commission for Chris at this time? Is the applicant that is appealing this with us this evening? Okay. Well, then I will bring this back into commission for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm in support of the director's decision, so would not want to overturn the decision.
I agree.
We've set the standards for a reason, so we should adhere to them.
And the appropriate action would be to make a motion to abstain. If that's what they want.
So if there is no other discussion within the commission, does anyone feel compelled to make a motion this evening to approve the director's decision?
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve the director's decision.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that did require a simple majority, of which it passed. So with that, we will move into our public hearing items for this evening. And so our first item is a rezoning request. Looks like Beth has got us for this one.
Okay. So the applicant is requesting to rezone approximately 14 acres from R1, which is single-family residential, to PUD, which is planned unit development. The property is located just north of the existing Phase 4 of Bell Valley, which is immediately east of the Deerfield subdivision across South German Lane. The acreage in the request represents the fifth and final phase of the Bell Valley development. A planned unit development, according to the code, is intended to allow development that might not be possible under traditional zoning. And among other things, it should provide an appropriate level of compatibility with surrounding development. You, as the Planning Commission, previously granted preliminary plat approval for this very property for 67 lots in October of 2022, and you can see that on page 19 of your report. If you choose to approve the rezoning for this property, a new preliminary plat approval would be required at the increased density. So the applicant is seeking to rezone to allow a slightly higher density than is permitted by right in R1. The proposal is for 82 single-family lots, which is approximately 5 units per acre. And that represents a 22% increase above the previously approved 67 lots, which is approximately 4 units per acre. It's still well below what would be an MF1 density, just for comparison. The projected traffic increase, if developed at 82 lots, is comparable at 22%. The comprehensive plan does indicate the area as appropriate for single-family development, and that is largely what is there. If rezoned, the allowed uses would remain limited to single-family residential. Duplex uses are not proposed, nor would they be supported by staff. A public information meeting was held on March 30th. There were no members of the public in attendance, and staff has not received any public comments. So given that, the planning staff recommends consider and presents 2 recommendation options. The first is a recommendation of approval with the proposed final development plan, including 10 conditions, which I'll read in just a moment, as the proposal does provide appropriate development and at a level that is compatible with surrounding development. Let me read those for you. This would comprise the final development plan that would accompany the rezoning. The development shall be constructed in a manner consistent with the proposed preliminary plat, which is Exhibit A in your packet, with regard to the general location and configuration of lots and streets. Approved uses are limited to single-family residential with a maximum of 82 detached dwelling units. All development shall be governed by the standards of the R1 zoning district unless specified otherwise in the PUD development plan. All signage shall be governed by standards of the R1 zoning district and shall comply with section 1205.1 of the zoning code, which governs signage in residential zones. That said, no signage was proposed as part of this request. The exceptions to the R1 standards governing the property as requested by the applicant are a minimum lot width shall be 50 feet. It's a standard 60 feet that's required. With the exception of lots fronting on curving street frontages, and they shall have at least 35 feet of street frontage with 2 side lot lines intersecting the street, diverging until they are separated by at least 50 feet at the building line. That is also standard in R1 with the exception of the 50 feet. Corner lots shall have at least 75 feet of street frontage. Except as noted, setbacks for principal structures shall be 25 feet on the front, on the exterior side, so corner lots, and on the rear, and 5 foot interior on the sides, interior sides. The exterior side setbacks for lots 55, 68, 69, 82, and 21 shall be 15 feet, and those are the corner lots if you look at the new proposal. So they would have 25-foot setback on the front and then a 15-foot on the exterior side. No lots shall take access from South German Lane, and the applicant would provide a planting screen easement along those, they would be required to take access from the internal street. The use of vinyl siding is limited to the sides and rear of structures. Facades visible from the public realm, including exterior sides on corner lots, shall be fully masonry comprised of brick, stone, or cement fiber siding, or a combination thereof. If cement fiber siding is to be used as a masonry material, it may comprise no more than 50% of any facade visible from the public realm. The developer shall install sidewalks along South German Lane, the South German Lane frontage of lots 54 and 155, and along all frontage of all lots indicated as unbuildable or to be permanently vacant. I don't believe any are proposed at this time, but should they be, that would take effect. And the PUD development plan is to be signed by the developer and the builder at the time of the preliminary plat approval and the issuance of the authorization to proceed. So that final development plan would accompany a recommendation of approval if you opted for that. The other option under the consider recommendation is a recommendation of denial. And the only reason staff proposes this is just based on the limitations of the zoning code. Single-family development is achievable for this property through traditional zoning. So staff had to remain neutral and had to provide both options, though we do believe that the 82 lots does represent an appropriate level of compatibility with the existing single-family development and that is under construction. Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I've got a question that's about the recommendation.
Sure.
I have not had experience seeing one that's written like this. So I just, I put a lot into staff's recommendation. So when it's like this, it's a little tougher. So can you just expand on what you just said a little more? Or?
Sure. So staff, as I said, in visiting with the applicant, what you are seeing in the proposal actually represents a revised proposal. The original proposal was quite a few more units. After discussing with the applicant, they reduced the density to come in line with what is more appropriate in the area, which is standard R1 single-family lots. And at that point, staff felt that 82 lots represented an appropriate level of density for the area. However, given the limitation of the zoning code, there's no topographical issue or anything else that would prevent the property from being developed as single family. It would just not allow this density. So given that, staff's recommendation is neutral because of the limitation of the zoning code, but with the caveat that staff does agree that it is appropriate for the area.
Okay. But
Yeah.
staff worked with the applicant to come to
Correct.
a more agreeable plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Laura, go ahead.
That kind of answers, on page 19, so
Yes.
is it basically a just more condensed version of?
Right, so what you're
Okay.
seeing on page 19 is the 67 lots
Right.
that was approved last year, and then on the left is what's currently proposed with the smaller street
Right.
frontages. It's just a
Okay.
few more lots. Correct.
I do have one question because I know some of these have come before us several times, and so forgive me, I'm losing track. Has this one, this specific lot been applied as a PUD before and been denied?
No. Okay, it's not. You would have only seen this property as part of a rezoning initially to R1 as part of a larger acreage. I believe it was about 30 acres, maybe when it came in last year. And then the applicant has phased it and has come in for a preliminary plat approval in that phasing, and you would have seen this phase as part of that process, but that's the only time that the Planning Commission would have seen this property.
Thank you.
The previous phases, how do they compare on density?
They are at a standard traditional R1 density. So each one is a little different in the lot count, but they are at a standard minimum 6,000 square foot lot. And they are immediately south and then across Bill Bell, South German Lane to the west-southwest.
Any other questions for Beth? All right, we're gonna,
Oh, one more.
go ahead, yeah.
Would sanitation and fire department have a chance to review this layout to make sure it conforms
They
to their
have,
standards?
we actually
Okay.
did send it to them as part of the PUD rezoning, and we got their feedback, yes. And it will come back before them again if it's approved for preliminary plat, yes.
Awesome. Beth, we may call you back, but we're gonna be good. Is the applicant here to speak? Yeah, for sure. You know,
Shaw, 1315 Main Street.
you
up the
could just
street.
chair this meeting. You don't even need me here. You know the drill.
We've been here a few times before.
Have you?
Yeah, I'd like to come too. Hey, thank you for letting us be on the agenda tonight and for your service. These are, we come in, we had great interaction with the staff. We'd come in with smaller lots. And after we visited with the staff and looked at it, everybody's costs are up. And just so you'll know, interest rates are up 4% for me. And so we're looking at our letter to request this, we're looking at a price point consistent with what we've been offering, or Roush Coleman has been offering. I only sell the lots. I've given you a handout of their sales and what they've done in Conway through you, through this commission and the city council. And those sales will add up to about 52 million in 4 years. And so they filled a niche in the market. With things as they are, we felt the need to ask for a little more density. But in these other 16 lots we're asking for, that's the increased density. The lots that we're requesting at 50 by 110 are 92% of the minimum size. And 20% of our lots exceed the minimum size. So this is not like we're, cramming them down really small. The way I figure it, 5,500 is 91.6% of 6,000. So we're asking for a deviation smaller on about 80% of the lots, which would be 60, and the others exceed the 6,000 foot minimum. It would also be good to note that across the street, we've done a 3-lot PUD on an irregularly shaped piece of property. We did a 3-lot PUD on these same 50-foot lots. Hasn't caused any problems. Those are the 2 stories that are built there if you've been by, and this will be similar to what we've already done. That's already been approved here, and those are built and permits issued and so forth. So to go through the list that Beth has gone through on the staff recommendations, I would have loved to have a do pass, but consider sounds good to me. And the 10 conditions that have been placed on us, we're in agreement with all of those. So we're going to build the same lot, the same size, quality lot. They'll be 50 feet for the most part. Some will be bigger than 6,000 square feet. And then if Roush builds these out, they'll be the same size houses as what we've been building. There won't be a big deviation in size. They have plans that will fit anything. The one request they asked me to make, and I've agreed to go ahead and do the 25-foot setback in the back. But one thing that I was asked to do that I've not done is to ask for a 15-foot setback in the rear, which allows them to build a little bit bigger house. But with a 25-foot setback, that cuts 10 feet off our square footage. If it's 2-story, that's a little less if you stack it up. But I have agreed to the 25-foot setbacks. That's the recommendation, and we're in agreement with everything that the city and planning department has put in here. We have no problem with all of that. We'd ask you to pass it and give us approval, and we'll move forward with it. I'll answer any question you have. Or either I or Megan will, because she's here. She'll know all the technical details.
Any questions for Mr. Shaw at this time?
It's a good project. These have really been moving well. If you've been by, there are a lot of people needing a house this size. About 62% of the buyers in this pie chart I brought you are single mothers. And of the 100% buyers, 45% are in management professional and another 36% in sales. And a lot of those are single mothers with children. We're providing a good service, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this?
Megan Weckworth with the Tyler Group, 240 Skyline Drive. I'm working with Mr. Shaw. We had originally planned as 40 feet, but after we talked with planning, it was a little too much density. So we went with the 50 feet, which we thought was a pretty good compromise, and it was still compatible with everything we've developed so far to the south. And we're only reducing them by only 500 square feet, actually. Yeah, that's it.
Any questions for Megan? Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak in favor of this? Anyone to speak in opposition of this request? All right, seeing none, I will bring this back into the Planning Commission for discussion. Commissioners?
I guess I'll say I'm encouraged that they worked with staff to come up with something that could be recommended, I think. So yeah, I'm in support.
Agreed. I'd make a motion to approve.
Laura, you feeling good about this?
I am.
Okay, I feel like sometimes we got to go to the expert here, and I feel like we need to.
I feel like it's great.
We covered sanitation and fire. I feel like we need to go to Lori. So let's
I
just-
feel like it's great, and I think it's great that they found a compromise that works.
awesome. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah,
you.
no, I'd make a motion to approve.
Got a motion second from Ethan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. I also would like to take this opportunity to have the minutes reflect. I would like to commend Mr. Shaw, the Tyler Group, and Planning Department for your hard work on this. I think it says a lot when we're able to come together that way. So thank you for your work on that. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. With that, we will move to our second public hearing item this evening. Looks like Ryan has got us on this one. So this is a request for a conditional use permit.
Okay, I'm gonna take a poll before I start. Is it 715 Bowie or Bowie?
Bowie.
Bowie? Okay.
Speaker's choice.
This is for 715 Bowie Street. It's 0.46 acres. The current zoning is C2, which is neighborhood commercial. What they are requesting is to put a duplex on this lot. We've looked at it. They want to construct 2 duplexes on this C2 lot. These types of structures are not permitted by right, but they are permitted if they get a conditional use permit. There are several existing duplexes adjacent to the west and northwest of the proposed site. And as condition, we don't see that it would negatively impact any of the adjacent property. Looked over this, we would recommend approval with the following conditions. Permitted uses are limited to two-family residential and a maximum of 2 attached dwelling units per lot. All standards and uses other than those defined in these conditions shall be governed by restrictions of the R2 zoning district. Parking area and driveway must be paved and sealed with a sealed surface pavement or concrete and shall be maintained so as to prevent dust resulting from continued use. The planting of at least 1 tree with a minimum 1.5-inch diameter at breast height shall be required for all new construction of single-family and 2-family duplex dwellings where no trees exist on the parcel or lot. It is strongly encouraged to retain existing trees to meet this requirement. Any expansions or additions to the structure, as well as any changes to the use, shall require an amended or new conditional use permit. No variance of any kind may be subsequently requested. And the conditional use shall automatically expire if the approved use is not commenced within 18 months from the date of approval, and or if the use ceases for a consecutive period of greater than 18 months. Questions?
Any questions for Ryan? Thank you, Ryan. Is the applicant here to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this request? All right, well, with that, we will bring it into the commission for discussion.
I have a question just for clarification of rules. Was it not put in at one time that someone had to be here to, like the applicant had to be present in order to?
If those are in your bylaws, then it's up to the commission to enforce your bylaws. If you'd like, we can take a pause and look at the bylaws and see if they have to be present, if that's what the chair would like.
I do think that it is in the bylaws that they need to be present. I am comfortable having this discussion if the commission is comfortable, but if you all would like to table it, I will take a motion to table it.
I would table it.
Okay.
If it's in our bylaws.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I did think that Beth had something to add to that.
Okay.
I don't know if it will make a difference, but I did speak directly with the applicant's representative today who acknowledged that they knew that the item was coming tonight. So not trying to say that they didn't show up, but they are aware that it's coming before you tonight, for what it's worth.
Did they?
Give a reason why?
We didn't discuss it. I mistakenly assumed that a representative would be here. But I'm saying I did speak with the applicant, so they do know that
Sure.
it is here.
We've tabled items before in the past for this reason.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we have some. Oh, come on, can you come up and then can you state your name and your address, please?
It's Christopher Seiler at 2240 Maplewood, and I represent Mr. Jones on this deal, working with him on it.
And I guess you are comfortable with the staff's recommendation and the items that are listed up there?
He's done a lot of development here in town. He built those apartments right in front of Nicole's place, and he's looking to expand more into Conway.
Any questions for our speaker this evening? Okay. Thank you. We appreciate you coming forward. So with that, I will bring it back into commission. Do you want to keep your motion out there? Are we comfortable with that?
No, I'm comfortable going for it.
Okay. Discussion on behalf of the commission?
I'll move to approve staff's recommendation with
Motion
the
from-
conditions.
Second.
Motion from Adam, second from Letitia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Right, the item passes. That concludes the public hearing item of our agenda this evening. This kind of moves us to our last item, announcements or any additional business. I know there may be a few announcements from the director, but before we get to that, is there anything from the commission agenda-wise that needs to be addressed this evening?
I just,
Go ahead. No,
just
yeah.
one question kind of on that. Are they being told when they do these applications that someone has to be present for them?
I did have that question, like, were they told on the phone that they needed to be here tonight? I guess so, if they sent their real estate agent as their representative.
Specific to that request, I didn't actually, that one started before Lauren left us for leave, so I don't know what was communicated.
No, it's probably one of those things that people are told, and what you hear and what you understand may just
Two good
seem
things.
to go. Yep. Basically, we can't function without Lauren. That's what I heard.
We've been slowly like creeping forward, but it's definitely noticed that she's not in the office.
I hope that she. Yes, Lauren, congratulations. My understanding is a little baby girl, Maven. Maeve.
I was so close.
Okay, Maeve. I don't know if it's Maeve or not, but I guess Maeve. So congratulations, Lauren. We miss you. Please enjoy maternity leave. It is well deserved and well earned. I hope you're getting lots of sleep. So with that, we'll move to our director's update for the evening.
Had two updates. Number one, some of you may have received the email and noticed that you did not receive a copy of the agenda in the mail. We're no longer hand delivering and we're no longer mailing the agenda. So those agendas are available through two methods. Number one, we email you a copy of the digital. Number two, if you want a physical copy, we print those and they are available for pickup here, but we no longer have the staff time to support the additional processes. Number two, we have a workshop next week. So the 25th is our spring workshop for the Planning Commission. We'll get to know each other a little bit better. It will not be in this setting. It will be in the town hall conference room, just right back here. You can enter to that room through the back of the building. So if you want to park back in front of US Pizza, then you can enter through that general area. And it will be on the 25th from 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. We have an agenda that should be coming out to you shortly. We're working on the final touches for it. You're going to have guest speakers. You're going to have the city attorney is going to present about FOIA. Council member Isby is going to discuss about difficult decisions and processes that she uses throughout the decision-making process. But I won't hold anybody up any longer, and that's all I got.
I'd like to commend the staff on their time and effort to put together that workshop. So thank you all for that. I know it's a very busy time for you, so we appreciate that. Anything else from the commission this evening?
Yeah, I've got one suggestion maybe for the newsletter. And so I'm going to say this and with full awareness that I may just be missing something, but like the public hearing that was for the Mr. Shaw's development today, I think it said it was March 30th. I know there's one coming up in April. Could we add those to this?
I believe we can, as long as it's been scheduled, because it's kind of arbitrary on the scheduling.
Oh, okay. I got you.
We basically just pick a day. And if it has already passed the time where we've created the newsletter, then
Yeah,
it's a little
okay.
challenging.
No,
but
totally.
if we can get them on there, then I'll do my best.
Totally get it. Okay, awesome.
Did everyone receive the newsletter?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome work. Good job. Yes, I think we would be remiss not to mention, there may be folks watching too. We have received quite a bit of communication regarding our May meeting. So I would just encourage you all as commissioners to make sure you have checked that those emails and seen that. So we've got a lot of probably a weighty agenda for May, if I had to guess. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, with that, we are adjourned. Y'all have a good night.